Hello guys. So here are the solutions to ZAT practice test 6 decision making posted in the Telegram group today. Case 1. A pastor had eaten at a restaurant with his troop of 10 and his family. Okay. It's a norm. It's not a rule. It's a norm to tip the waiter for, and about 20% of a waiter's salary comes from these tips. Okay. However, while paying the bill, the pastor crossed out the automatic 18% tip charged for parties of more than 8 and wrote, I give God 10%. Why do you get 18%? Very nice, interesting pastor. Above his signature. The chagrined waitress at the restaurant posted a photo of this on the social media. Very nice. She was subsequently fired for violating company's policy on customer privacy. Okay. Maybe too harsh. The punishment seems too harsh. Yes, she did violate company's policy on customer privacy, but she did not, post the pastor's address or the pastor's designation or the pastor's name or the pastor's position. She only posted a photo after all. So yes, violation is there. Violation of customer privacy is there, but she could have gotten away with a slight, slap on her wrist. She did not have to be fired for this little indiscretion. So too harsh a punishment, but let's proceed. This would have been understandable if the restaurant had not posted just 2 weeks ago a customer receipt that was complimenting them. Excellent. So double standards. हम करें तो रासलीला, तुम करो तो कैरेक्टर लीला. Social media and social activists came heavily upon the management's ambivalent stand and the firing of the waitress. In response, the company posted a note on their social media page defending their actions. So it's a PR crisis now. Situation involves a PR crisis. This quickly drew over 10,000 comments, mostly negative, to which the management started responding by posting the same note over and over again. Yes, that's the best they can do now. There were also accusations of the company deleting negative comments and blocking the users. The restaurant also experienced a sizable drop in their footfall. So it's not just a PR crisis, it's also a sales crisis now. Okay, revenue crisis. So we have understood all the angles here. Let's examine the questions. Question number 1. Who or what is the main cause of the situation becoming unmanageable? Clearly, the management of the company, the management of the restaurant is the main cause, because number 1, they did not handle the PR situation effectively, and even more importantly, they fired the waitress for a little indiscretion that she showed. Okay. Option A, the pastor, for flouting the norm of the restaurant. Pastor was well within his rights not to give tips. It's a norm, it's not a rule. Therefore, pastor cannot be faulted. B, the waitress, for violating customer privacy. Yes, she is responsible, but is she the main cause? Please note that there was no PR situation. The PR crisis is not a result of waitress sharing that photo. The PR crisis that the company faces today is the result of the company management firing her, terminating her services. Therefore, it's not the waitress responsible for this PR crisis or the sales crisis. It is the management of the company. She is responsible, but not the main cause. Anyway, the management for not taking action against the pastor. Again, pastor was well within his rights, so management did not have to take an action against him. Management for giving out disproportionate punishment to waitress. Absolutely correct. This is what we're looking for. Too harsh a punishment. The management for removing negative comments from the social media that could have worsened the situation, worsened the crisis, but it did not create the crisis in the first place. Therefore, not the main cause. Okay. Question number 2. The downward spiral continued for the restaurant as the management persisted in defending their actions and argued with those who criticized them. Okay. So stubborn management, not willing to learn from their mistakes. By the following week, the original post had generated 18,000 negative comments. Excellent. What is the best way forward for the restaurant? This is a generic question, overarching question. What is the best method? What is the best way now? What should best be done now? Okay. Let's see. Unconditionally restore the waitress. to her former position and salary on the ground that she was never at fault in the first place. Well, she was at fault. She might not have been the main culprit here, but she was at fault. After all, she violated customer privacy. However little that indiscretion was, and yes, management was more responsible than the waitress, but the waitress was also responsible. However little. Therefore, unconditionally restoring her sends a bad impression. It tells the other employees that they can also violate customer privacy freely, and they will not suffer any consequences. So bad choice. Apologize to and reinstate the waitress. Okay. And ask her to apologize for her breach of customer privacy as well. So yes, both the parties involved, both the faulty parties, apologize to each other. So a happy marriage. Option B should be the correct answer. Reinstate the waitress provided she apologizes. But what about you? The management is still not apologizing because the crisis is ultimately the result of management's mismanagement. Yeah. D, reinstate the waitress if and only if she apologizes for her breach of customer privacy and blah, blah. Again, you're putting all the blame upon this waitress. Okay. And E, recruit 2 waitresses at a higher wage, but stick to the original decision. That is stubbornness. And don't forget, you are the main culprit. The management of the restaurant is the main culprit. So you are again not resolving the issue. PR crisis is not going to go away just because you hired 2 other waitresses. Now people's sentiments, people's emotions are with this waitress now. Okay. Next question, next set. Vimla is the domestic help of Shreya and her neighbor Padma. Both live in a posh gated community. Vimla not only cleans the house but also cooks for both the families. Shreya treasures Vimla ever since she joined her family 4 years ago. Okay, Shreya, 4 years ago. Vimla joined Padma's house this year. Padma's house this year. Okay, that's the situation. One evening, Shreya, trying to pay the pizza delivery, was surprised to find a few 500 rupee notes missing from her purse that she was sure were there earlier. She wants to ascertain if someone has stolen the money. On reflecting, the following facts crossed her mind. What are the facts? Let's see. All right. In the last 1 year, Shreya had noticed cash missing on 3 occasions. Okay. Shreya's husband also shared that a few notes were missing from his wallet, though he was not sure if they were stolen. All right. So probably there is a problem after all. Her eldest son had been pestering Shreya for more pocket money for the last 3 weeks. Okay. So the eldest son could be the culprit. So there are 2 suspects now. One eldest son, the other the domestic help. In the last 1 year, Vimla had received 6 mails from her family asking for money. Irrelevant. They can't, they are not. They cannot become invisible, enter your house and steal money. So even if they have received, even if Vimla has received mails from the family, this is irrelevant. We still have 2 suspects. Her eldest son's expenditure had gone up in the last few days. Now that, so the son becomes a bigger suspect now. Let's see if we combine 3 and 5. Which of the following combinations of the above statements would decrease the likelihood that Vimla has stolen the money? Clearly 3 and 5, because 3 and 5 make son the bigger suspect. So they decrease the likelihood that Vimla has stolen the money. All right. Easy question. Padma discovered some money missing from her purse as well. She suspects that Vimla has stolen it. She wants to prevent the stealing from happening again and is contemplating the following actions. Okay, let's examine let's evaluate the actions. She should let it pass since to err is human. Option 1 involves inaction. She's not taking any action. The problem persists. A bad choice, a bad decision. She should confront Vimla and tell her that she knows the truth. Wait. She only suspects that Vimla is the culprit. Vimla is the thief. She does not know that Vimla is in fact the thief. Therefore, confrontation is a bad choice, bad decision as well. She should not confront unless she knows the truth. She has the evidence. Okay. So bad choice, bad. She should tell Vimla that she's aware someone has stolen money from the house, but is not sure who it is. Now that's decent, because you are, being transparent, and you are asking, you are giving the other person at least a chance to defend her. If you only suspect that Vimla is the culprit, she should share with Vimla that neighbors think Vimla has stolen the money. She doesn't, but is interested in finding out the truth. And that's a roundabout way of asking. Transparency is always preferred. This is a roundabout option. Transparency is better than roundabout, but 4 is at least better than 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are bad choices. 4 is okayish choice, and 3 is a decent choice. She should directly ask Vimla if she stole the money. Okay, transparency is good, but this bluntness, this confrontation, if she stole the money, might not yield correct answer number 1. She also, if Vimla has not stolen the money, she can get offended, promising her no punishment if she confesses. And why no punishment anyway? So 5 is an okayish choice, better than 1 and 2, but not better than 3. 3 is probably the best option. Let's see what the question asks us to. Arrange the following combinations of the above actions in the decreasing order of appropriateness. So I want 3 first, and then I want 4 and 5 in any order. Maybe this is what I'm looking for. Excellent. There's only one such option. Correct answer, option D. All right. The next case, Genius Consulting is a boutique consulting firm started by Shirish, Balram, Rahman, and Xavier, 4 friends from a premier business school. They committed themselves to abide by 2 principles. First, not to indulge in anything unethical. Okay. Share earnings equally. These are the 2 founding principles of the company. Genius Consulting could not get a significant project till the following year when they managed the big one after Rahman's father referred their firm to his top management. Oh, so isn't it unethical? Rahman's father is referring the firm to the top management, so there is some nepotism involved, maybe. Some nepotism is involved, so maybe the lines of ethics are okay. So if the firm is truly deserving, then it is okay, and if due diligence has been followed, then it is okay. But if due diligence has not been followed and they have been awarded the contract just because Rahman's father works in the firm, then it is unethical. So we have a blurry situation here. Convinced of the team's talent, following an impressive presentation, the top management. So there's no violation of ethics. It is clearly mentioned that convinced of the team's talent, following an impressive presentation. So due diligence was followed, and on the basis of merit, the contract was awarded. Fine. The day following the presentations, they met to decide the way forward for the organization. Which of the following choices would be the most appropriate for Genius Consulting? So a generic question, most appropriate choice. As this project violates both their principles, it does not. Goes out. Due to the violation of the first principle, it does not. As we saw, they have been awarded the project because the top management was convinced of their talent and following an impressive presentation. Therefore, ethics have not been violated. They should take up the project. Yes, definitely. They should take up the project. Okay, they should take up the project. Okay, so CDE are all good. First sentence. Further, since Rahman had agreed to equal sharing, he is entitled to finder's. He is not entitled to finder's fees. Correct. The second principle is we will share the earnings equally. So C is the best available option. Rahman has agreed. They should take up the project, and as the referral helped them survive, Rahman should be paid finder's fees. No, no matter what, they were in it together. All 4 of them, they were in it together. So together they die, together they survive. They will share earnings equally. If one has given reference, or one's father has been of some help in securing the project, it does not entitle him for extra fee. It violates the second principle. They should take up the project, but in order to not violate the principles, Rahman can be paid finder's fees this year and an equal amount to be deducted from his compensation. What stupidity is that? So eventually not paying him anything. So why would you pay him this year and then take away the amount the next year, deducted from his compensation next year? This is simply a stupid step. The whole sum is 0. The net income, the net extra income for Rahman is 0. Okay. Mrs. Biswas was to retire in 1 year, serving in the construction department of the Gujarat government for more than 30 years. After retirement, she wanted to spend a retired life along with Mr. Biswas, retired school teacher in small town in Kerala. They had 2 children, both studying in Bangalore. The Biswas wished to construct a house in Kerala with their life savings. Okay. Couple gathered information about owning a house. They had 4 options. What are the options? Let's see. Buy a fully furnished house from a big developer. Okay, so information is important. Fully furnished, big developer. Second, semi-furnished house from big developer and then furnish it. Okay. We can't really compare the two. Everyone has preferences. This is subjective. Whether one is better, two is better, we don't know at this point. All right. 3, get a local unregistered contractor to construct a house and furnish it. Could be problematic. Possibly is unregistered, so we are not sure of his merit, or we are not we are not sure of his credibility either. So Mr. Biswas, with inputs from the family, could supervise the construction of a house back in Kerala by employing the best material engineers and masons. And okay, so personally supervise the construction of a house, that's another choice. Let's look at the questions now. Which option would ensure the best control of quality of construction for the Biswas? Best control of quality. Now, clearly, if you if you take responsibility of construction yourself, that gives you the maximum leeway, the maximum liberty, the maximum control over the quality of construction. Therefore, D4 will be the obvious choice. Option 4. Which of the following additional information, if true, would improve the chances of the third option being preferred? Third option. What was the third option? Buy from an unregistered contractor, make him construct the house and furnish it as well. Okay. Engage with an unregistered contractor. And we have to improve the chances of this third option. The issues we had were credibility and merit. Whether he's talented, whether he's credible. These two are the challenges that we face with unregistered parties. Option A, based on the current information with no additional information, the third is the best option. No, it is not. It is in fact the worst option right now with current information. Among local property holders, the contractor in the third option enjoys a good reputation. Okay. So that covers merit and credibility with a point. So B improves the chances of adopting option 3. Big developers are less open to changes in design. So what? The issue still remains. What about the credibility of this unregistered contractor? Just because he's flexible in changing the designs does not mean he has the merit to build the house, to construct the house. Mr. Biswas cannot stay back alone to supervise the construction. So again, merit, credibility. In fact, it raises a situation where merit and credibility of this contractor becomes even more important if he cannot stay back. The Biswas want to select the furniture on their own. Biswas, if he wants to select the furniture on his own, option 4, the total control of the house, of quality of construction, would be a better option. So option B is the correct answer. Last question. The Kerala government recently announced the policy in case of a major quality infringement. The builder will pay a penalty of 50% of the price of the house in addition to the price of the house. So basically 1.5 times he'll be paying to the client within a year of notice. Rank in ascending order the options that would ensure control of quality, which means minimum, maximum. Maximum control of quality should be the last option, maximum control of quality. Now, please understand, if 50% penalty is levied on quality infringement, then the control of quality becomes an even important issue, because for the builder. Now the builders are unlikely to violate the quality requirements because they know that the penalty is hefty. So a big developer is unlikely to violate the quality specifications or quality control characteristics, norms, etc. But do not forget, maximum control over quality is still in 4. Even after this, the maximum quality control is still in 4. So what we want, rightmost, what we want rightmost is 4, which leaves us with options A and C. Now, please note, the Kerala government recently announced that they will charge a penalty. They will have to pay, they will enforce this upon contractors. However, the contractor in option 3 is unregistered. And because the contractor in option 3 is unregistered, he might easily circumvent this law, and the government might not be able to enforce this law upon him. He's not even registered with the government. And therefore, the worst option now is option 3, when you can easily, involve a big developer, and that is the best option you have for, but at least better option than involving an unregistered contractor. Okay. So therefore we want 3 in the first place, because ascending order. Correct answer option C. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like it. Keep learning, keep growing. Bye bye.